What if I told you that I could not only make a quality fly, but I could use it to transform a life? And that's really what we're looking at. That's our goal, is how many lives can we transform while doing the thing that we're passionate about. Like, man, if I die with $5 in the bank, I don't care. I got to live a full life. I get to go fishing in cool places and meet great guides and tell story. And I get to be part of that fly fishing community.
That was Jeff Coffey laying out his why behind his fly fishing vision. Fair trade, fair flies, and Jeff's favorite steelhead patterns today on the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show.
Welcome to the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show, where you discover tips, tricks, and tools from the leading names in fly fishing today.
Hey, how you doing today? Thanks for stopping by the show. Before we jump into it, you can head over to wetflyswing.com/love, L-O-V-E, wetflyswing.com/love, or go to the show notes, and there'll be a link there where you can leave a quick rating and review. It'd be awesome. If you've been enjoying the show, leave us a 5-star review. We would definitely appreciate that today. Reyr Gear makes truly unique and innovative fishing gear to help you travel lighter, faster, and fish more. This telescoping fly rod doesn't need guides and packs up small enough to fit in the pocket of your backpack with the fly tied on. This is likely the most unique rod you've seen this year, so take a second and check it out for yourself. You can go to reyrgear.com right now and check out this rod. That's Reyr, R-E-Y-R, gear.com. Established in 1928, Dette Flies is the oldest family-run fly shop in the country, now in their 94th season. Dette's mission has always been to supply the fishing community with the finest products and services. Every fly they tie is either tied in-house or by a handful of select tiers. Please head over to wetflyswing.com/Dette to grab your flies today. That's Dette, D-E-T-T-E. You support this podcast by clicking through that link to Dette. Jeff Coffey from Fair Flies is here to share the story of creating a company around fly brushes and fair trade. We find out what the 5D brush is really all about. We find out a few new products they have coming in the conventional fishing space, which is really cool. We dig into that today, and along with just where they're going with the next product. I think we get a little hint of something that's around the Togens style of products they provide in that space. So we talk a little about that today. So without further ado, here is Jeff Coffey from Zag.Fish. How's it going, Jeff?
Good, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for putting the time together. I know you're a super busy guy these days with everything you have going. We have a connection from a while back, and you got like the fair flies. You've got all sorts of stuff over the years you've done, which have kind of had a big impact on the industry. We're going to talk about a lot of that, brushes and things, but let's take it back before we get there and start with fly fishing, because I don't know the story of how you first got into fly fishing.
Oh, man. It goes all the way back, actually, to the 3rd grade for me. Caught my first striper on a Snoopy rod, and it was on the Napa River down in the Bay Area, and it was a 36-incher. It took us, over 45 minutes to get that thing to the canoe I was paddling around in, and I just instantly hooked. We've got all sorts of puns in our industry, don't we?
Oh, yeah.
And right away from there, I found fly fishing. I don't know. I was probably 14 years old. I started fly angling. By the time I was 26, I was guiding in Bend, Oregon.
Oh, wow.
Just always loved it. I've had the opportunity to guide all across northern Saskatchewan, British Columbia, Alaska, and all over the Northwest at this point. I love it.
There you go. So you've been in the industry since day one, pretty close to that, and then tell us about the fair flies, because that was the first time I think, kind of reconnected or connected with you on that. Talk about how the fair flies thing came to be.
Yeah, about 2014, I was looking at starting a fly shop and had a fairly negative experience in looking to buy the flies for the shop, and started kind of diving in and realizing that maybe we could do things a little better. And really, I was at a point of trying to figure out, business is just business. We can make $1 doing whatever we want. But what if we could do that and make a really good change for something? And I really became passionate about what's going on in the human trafficking around the world. And what I discovered was that one of the most difficult part for trafficking survivors is getting jobs. afterwards. So we instantly dove in and tried to figure out, how do we teach them how to tie flies? How can we pay double a living wage and start breaking some of these cycles around trafficking? And that was our start. We started out in Kibera, Kenya, second largest slum in the world, and definitely bit off more than we could chew. And since that time, we're now doing projects in Kenya, Nepal, India, and Tunisia.
Wow. And you're basically, what are you teaching these people to do over there? What's the product?
Yeah, we try to specialize. So our team in India now does all of our composite brushes, or our 5D brushes. They do a lot of our packaging. We're getting ready to launch a new lure company under Pivot, and taking some of what we know about building good lures for fly tying and bringing that back to the rest of the world, the conventional team. And so we've got that going on there. Anything that we do with composites, we're working on some carbon fiber fly boxes, for example, in Tunisia. And in Nepal, we do all of our apparel, all of our cut and sew is done with those teams. And we try to specialize them, right, so that we can manage the supply chains. And so we look for a new product line that allows us to spin up and hire a new team of individuals that either have been or are at high risk of being exploited.
Wow. And it sounds like, there's multiple countries. So how do you choose, how does that work with where you're going next? Because you could just stay in one country, right, and double down there. What's it been like, and why go all over I guess that's the big question is how do you choose where you're going?
Why all over?
Yeah.
It's really interesting because of the places that we work. I mean, countries shut down, and I'm talking even pre-COVID. They can just shut everything down. And so if you have all of your eggs in one basket in a third world country, then your whole business goes away. So, and then it kind of comes down to relationships. I've had the benefit of looking at projects like this around the world and helping other businesses launch similar models. And so it's really finding the resources, the skills, the boots on the ground, because when we set up a producer for us, a team, we don't own them. They do. And so we're really looking for good boots on the ground presence, some Western influence there so that our quality stays really high and we have eyes on the product before it ships. We're looking for supply chains, where are some of those natural resources? And then where are some of just the skills and expertise in these various teams? Like our Tunisia team, the physicist, a chemist, that sold everything they owned and moved to Tunisia to go start a business to create jobs there for the poor.
Wow.
And so, finding people that have kind of that shared vision and value with us, it's kind of a tiny world. So, we go, hey, what do you have? What kinds of machines can you get in there? What kinds of products? How easy is it to get this or that through customs? And that's really kind of how we set up the project.
Wow. That's it. Okay. So this is cool. So you're all over the world. You're doing this amazing stuff. And when people buy some of your products, essentially, I mean, anything they buy, like you're not even having to give. I mean, it's all going to support these communities, these around the world.
Yep. Yeah. Our cut and sew factory is the only one that's gone through the certification process as World Fair Trade certified. It's funny. There is no fair trade certification in the fishing industry yet.
Oh, right.
But so everything that we do, the only reason we would do it is if we can create jobs for exploited or exploitable individuals.
Wow, amazing. Well, this is obviously a whole episode here, just digging into this, and maybe I always talk about this. Maybe we could get you on, and we probably will, and talk more about this. I want to just touch on the brushes because I think a lot of people know about brushes. They've heard it's been a hot topic for a while now. But talk about those brushes. Like, what is, for somebody that doesn't maybe know exactly what this is, what is the brush, and why would somebody need a brush versus for fly tying?
Well, it makes it really fast. As a guy who used to tie all of his own flies for the next day or even the next month, we were actually working for doing flies, some really complex flies for another company. And it was taking, our commercial tires. I don't know if everybody knows this, but a commercial tire, the industry standard is a fly every 4 minutes.
Oh, wow.
So when you add that up, that's an Adams, an Elkhare Caddis, doesn't matter what size. You have to tie 10 dozen a day to meet quota. And I don't know how many people have ever tied 10 dozen flies in one day, but try doing that every day.
Exactly. We just, a while back, we had Nick Pionessa on, and he's a commercial tyer. And we talked about that. I asked him how many flies you tie, and we kind of came down to it that, 10 dozen was a pretty, I don't think he was quite at that range. But I remember when I tied back in the day, 10 dozen was a solid day. I mean, if I got that in, I was like kicking butt all day.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
You got to be fairly focused. But man, these gals, they just get so fast and they're talking back and forth. And it becomes muscle memory. But these complex flies were taking, 15, 20 minutes to get all the different materials in.
Right.
And you got to remember, we're trying to teach people who have never seen a fly, who have never been fly fishing, how to proportion a fly. And we all know that that's one of the most key parts of a fly pattern, right? That they're proportioned the same. And so what's funny is they all like have a different eye. Some of them like it fuller with more material, and they think that looks better. And some think the sparse looks better. And so struggling through that, I tried making a brush, and we had to come up with a completely different way of manufacturing the brush. They're all made by hand, by the way. There's no motors involved. There's no machinery involved. And so the idea is that you can tie in the brush, go one time, maybe twice around, tie it off, and you've got 90% of your fly done. So it took these complex flies that were taking us 15 to 20 minutes down to 2.5 minutes to tie. And it was completely consistent every time.
All right.
Because we measure every fiber that goes into a brush to the thousandth of an ounce. Like, we can really get scientific in our production cycles about it has to be exactly 12 inches long, within 1/4 of an inch, one way or the other, or it fails. We weigh it, and it's got to be within, 1/10 of a gram. Like, we're able to control those proportions and how it goes into the fly by saying 1 turn or 2 turns instead of this bunch or that much. It starts to become, way more manageable. Gotcha. So that's where it started. And then I was looking at it, I held it up, and I'm like, okay, we can do this. We did our first production run with it, and they went so fast. Everybody loved them.
Yeah.
And we were able to give jobs to specifically individuals that didn't have the dexterity left in their hands, but still needed a job. And they could make these brushes, but they couldn't tie the flies. And so it allowed us to have a team of people that couldn't tie flies still be making the brushes for those that were tying flies. And, we were able to start developing teams around that. But I held it up, and I'm like, as a tyer, I'd rather decide my own hook size and shape, right? Whether or not I'm going to use weight. All those decisions are made for you when you go to the bin and you buy a finished fly. But like, as a tyer, like, I want to make that decision based on where I'm going. So
yeah,
we took our first 5 patterns of brushes to ICAST 2017, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
And we won Best of Show.
Oh, wow.
For them. And we were blown away. I mean, apparently it was by a landslide, the votes, as, we were kind of told kind of how it played out behind the scenes a little bit. And, blown away. I thought somebody else had won. Don't remember even who we were up against at that point, but that was pretty big.
Yeah.
I mean, not too many small companies get that pretty piece of plastic. And so that's a little bit of the story of our brushes. But the idea of being able to have a balanced fly, and I could just one in, and I get 5 materials in every turn, done, quick.
Yeah. So when you tie these things, obviously they're great for steelhead pattern, a lot of different pattern. What sort of, what would somebody use these for? I mean, is this kind of for like
everything? Everything. We've had customers send us pictures back from all over the world. Matter of fact, we have one of our brush patterns. We call it the mind bender, because it's a bit of a mind bender when you look at it. That literally has caught every sport species of fish on the planet, like kingfish, shark, trout, bass, golden mahseer in the Himalayas, golden dorado in the Amazon. Like this one pattern seems to get fish wherever it goes.
Right.
And so we went even further than just buying our materials to make the brushes. We now have engineered every fiber we use. So we've worked on up the line and worked with engineers at 3M. All of our mylars and acetates, that's the plastic and reflective pieces that end up in our flies, those are 90% recycled. We also changed the way that we dye and color those, working with other companies, typically to dye your plastic bits that go into your lures. We use battery acid and water. and we heat that with a flame, which gets it hotter on the bottom, cooler on the top. If anybody's ever gotten a bad batch of dubbing that just seemed to turn to dust in their hands and turn in, right? Like that's because it was on the bottom of that particular batch and it got too hot. And it's really fragile stuff. These are thin plastics. So we were able to get battery acid out of the process because that was just getting flushed down the drains, literally to our water treatment plants.
Oh, wow.
And then we would use toxic dyes on top of that to try to like these really harsh chemicals. Well, we reverse that. We are completely natural, EPA certified, zeros across the line for both our dye and our bath process. And if you ever come by the shop here, I'll show you how we heat the water. But it's a whole lot more consistent. We don't use flame, so there's no one hot spot in our process. We can manage time and temperature within a half a degree. And it just gave us a lot more flexibility to start to design even our own fibers. And then when we put those fibers in that brush, every fiber moves at a different rate. So, for example, if they all had the same flow rate, same thickness and shape and all that kind of stuff, you put it together and you sink that in the water, it's going to mad back and look lifeless, right? It'll look just like putting in some silicone behind a hook. You might as well. But what we've done is we picked a different flow rate for every material. We might even use two materials the same color, but different thicknesses or different cuts, so that those fibers go in and out at a different rate, and they start to look like they're breathing.
Oh yeah, this is cool. So basically, yeah, I mean, this is huge. I mean, you guys sounds like a state of the art stuff on the cutting edge here, which is also amazing. I didn't realize. Well, let's think about, so on again, these brushes, it sounds like you have a bunch of different types of brushes. So if somebody, let's say they were streamer fishing, they were going for trout, brown trout, and they were putting together a fly. So what would you say, is there something off the shelf they can grab if they're going to tie up some streamers for browns?
Man, if you're going for some big browns, we've got a Spey Cream and Copper that's just really good for browns and bulls. I really like that one a lot. We've got Bleeding Leech. Is a really good one. It's got some red fleck with some black craft fur, which again, another fiber. We use our fly fur because I actually went to a factory and had it custom designed fiber for fly tying.
I was going to ask you about that because fly fur is definitely a key word that is pretty highly searched, right? So is that something you guys developed?
That's ours. Yeah, that's ours. I went to a faux fur manufacturer and I said, I don't want to simulate something that already exists. I mean, for 150 years, we've used natural things like bucktail because it's what we had, right? Like it was there. I could dye it. I could tie it into a fly. I could trick a fish with it. But starting to think back and go, hey, wait a minute. What if I could engineer exactly the fiber I want to do exactly what I want it to do when it gets wet?
Right.
And that was kind of this, just getting frustrated with the craft furs that are sold out there. You cut it. 50% of it is under fur or more, right? Pull out more than half of that.
Yep.
And I said, I want to design a fur. So literally went to a factory that, let's say you wanted to make a line of faux wolf jackets or something,
Well, and what is faux? What is faux?
Faux means just fake, synthesized. Faux, synthesized, not real.
Yep.
And so if I would take a wolf pelt to this company and they would synthesize that hair as best as they could, coloring and buoyancy and all the other features to it, right? So I went to him, I said, listen, first off, I don't want this to be 100% virgin plastic, nylon or whatever. So how far can we go with recycled product? And we got it to flow the way I wanted it to and got all the way up to 40% recycled. The next thing was the length, right? So often you cut in these fibers and it's just too short and then you're having to stack them up along the fly.
Yeah.
Whereas if I had a longer fiber, I could tie it in. I'd have a ton more movement. So they're 100 millimeters or 4 inches long, the fibers. We had to re-engineer the nozzles that they shoot this stuff with to be able to get as fine as I wanted it. And then we've got this texture and crimp in it, so that again, as it flows in the water, it doesn't mad together. It flares out. We want that lifelike movement, and then we were able to reduce the underfur down to 25%, which was really cool. And kind of a really cool little accident is there's a few different things. I've got a few videos and just talking about all the different ways you can use that fly fur now. But there's 3 different lengths of fibers when you take a cut. And so you just pull them apart, get the nice long ones to go in. You got these medium grade ones for doing shorter flies or putting into dubbing loops. And then the fine stuff, the real underfur that's less than 20% of that cut, that makes great dubbing. Just amazing. We save it in bags as we're working. If we're not using the underfur in a brush or a fly, we save it because doing collars, spinning that up in a loop, so good.
There you go. So you got the fly fur and the brushes, and you have some other products too that I think we'll dig into a little bit as we go. But I wanted to go back to the brushes really quick. So on these brushes it sounds like you got all sorts of different colors and things like that. Everything's covered. How does it look like when you make the brush? Describe that process. If somebody's making it, how are they? Are they just wrapping? Maybe just describe it from your perspective.
Yeah, so we've got these special boards that we made. And I learned something. Like if you look at a lot of the other brushes on the market, there's typically two, and they're a little bit heavy, wires down the middle of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
yep.
When you've got two wires, if you can imagine, you put material between two wires. As that wire forms around that material, there's a space you just can't eliminate. And so when you cut those two wires, material starts pulling out of the end. It's just been part of the process. Well, we discovered that if we used a much finer wire, matter of fact, there's only one machine in the world that we found that could get the consistency we wanted in the wire. It's actually out of France. And we use 5 strands in it. So everything is just perfectly locked. It really holds it in kind of a 3-dimensional form. It's got, instead of coming out flat and combed sideways, it's full coverage, all 360 degrees. But those 5 strands, when you cut that, they almost kind of weld together at the end, and they hold your materials. So you can just tie in the tip of a brush, come up a 1/4 of an inch, cut it, and you got a crazy Charlie. You're done. You're literally just done. You rivet, put it, tie in a little nick of a brush, and you'll get 24 crazy Charlies out of a brush. It's just super easy to work with.
With over 40 years of experience in coffee, the Anglers Coffee team roasts a full range of coffee with one goal in mind: delivering excellent coffee to every single angler. Joe responsibly sources this coffee from farms using sustainable practices. You can rest easy knowing you're doing your part here. Roasted and shipped within 48 hours to assure freshness. 48 hours, that's craziness. Definitely for me, I love Anglers Coffee. I recently have been drinking a little mix. I got the 3-pack, and this is part of the Anglers Artist Series. Very cool series from one of the guests we've had on this show, who is the artist there. And $1 for each sale of this goes to Casting for Recovery. So you support Casting for Recovery, and you get an awesome bag of coffee. They got all sorts of stuff here, including a dry dropper on the go option. Joe's digging in. Yeah, Joe is a workaholic, and he loves what he does. So check him out right now. Anglers Coffee. You can check him out right now. wetflyswing.com/anglers. ANGLERS. Let's do it. And so that's one of the questions there. So you have this brush which has all these different colors, but if you want to mix it up a little bit, say you have, whatever, a brown coloration, you can still mix that up. You can add hackle, right. This is just you're wrapping the body.
Yeah, you get the majority of the work done. Usually we'll tie in a beard and a wing or a couple wings, maybe a tail. It doesn't take much though, because again, what we're looking for is profile, movement, reflection. Those are the key things, especially when we're talking about streamers. But we're tying up jigs. They're a great replacement for marabou jigs and that kind of stuff. Just some of the saltwater guys are really kind of catching on to it now.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of fun to see how somebody uses your product. Like that's got to be the funnest part for me. Is like, oh, I had this idea and wow, look at what they did with it. Look at what somebody else did with it. It's really fun to see.
That is cool. I know what you're saying there. We were talking to the folks from Lid Rig, and he was saying that this clipper thing. He was saying people are using it to put the magnet on the car to hold their rod up from falling down. And he
right?
he hadn't even thought about that. I was like, hey, that's actually not a bad idea, because that is a struggle, right? Where do you put your rod? So it sounds like with these flies, these brushes, it's definitely streamers focused. There's all these bigger stuff. Maybe the trout flies, the smaller stuff, maybe it's not the exact, the brush maybe isn't the tool for a small little size 14, right? That sort of thing.
Well, no, certainly not for going down to a 14. I would say anything 10, size 10 or larger. We're just now releasing smaller brushes. It's something we've been working on for a while. is having materials that flow right when they're really short, right? They start to get more rigid the shorter they are.
Oh, right. Yep.
It's long, they'll flow back. And so we've been working to perfect that. And we've got, I don't know, we'll probably be releasing by the end of March new lines of those brushes, as well as making the brushes just with the fly fur and kind of pre-blending some colors, some good, standards. Because again, when you tie it in that way, it's, I mean, we've all tied marabou.
Yeah.
You either love it or hate it. You get a big full 1 ounce bag and there's 10 usable feathers in there for some things that you want to do.
Yeah.
So this just brings that flow that we're looking for, that movement in the water, without dye that bleeds like marabou does. Tie a bunch of black woolly buggers and you look at your fingers afterwards.
Right.
We've eliminated all of that with it. And
yeah, so that black on your fingers is the dye, literally is the kind of toxic dye.
It is. That's exactly what it is. And not only that, but when we start talking natural products, everybody thinks, oh, it's clean, it's natural. We got to bleach that stuff before we then do all the other processes to it.
Wow.
So
there's a lot. There's a lot there.
Yeah. There's a lot to think about. And it's been really fun. So we started out thinking of ourselves as just a fly company. And then quickly, as we started going down this path, like we're talking, is we started innovating these things, just looking like there's a saturated fly market. Some of the companies in that industry are so big.
Yeah.
Little company like ours with some big ideas doesn't really have a lot of a chance to compete.
Yep.
But when we started innovating, that started turning the tide for us, is looking at, what can we do? What can we do better? And starting looking at every piece of it, saying, can we make it more environmentally friendly? For two reasons. One is we really care about the environment. We'd like the fish to still be around for a while. Two is, we're hiring people with compromised immune systems and everything else. I don't want them having to handle this toxic stuff all day in and day out. So how can we improve on that? And then how can we make the product actually better for what it is we want it to do? So we started out with materials, then we did brushes, and we're 3 years ago, we took over Wasatch Tools, having a ton of fun with that one.
Mm-hmm.
That was an unexpected shift, but now we're innovating in tools and how they're manufactured. And 50-year-old company known as the top, this is the best tools in the industry, that beautiful wood and gold. And it's taken me in a different path, right? Like all of a sudden I've had to become a machinist. Oh, right. And, learn how to apply my ideas. And then we had to learn CAD and all this other stuff. And it's been a ton of fun. Like I get intimately involved. The things that I took for granted as a guide or an angler, man, I get to like design that stuff now.
You're the nerdy science. You love the nerdy scientist stuff.
No question. I'm a total geek, and I won't even apologize for it.
That's awesome. So Wasatch, I mean, obviously, yeah, that's a huge name. What were somebody that doesn't maybe know what they have? What were some of the products before you guys picked them up that were?
Well, there's 54 different fly tying tools, from whip finishers, bobbin holders. They've been innovating in the tool side for a long time. I'm the fourth owner of Wasatch, and so because of what we do and how we do it, we're able to more broadly distribute the tools now. So tools that were always just sold at trade shows and direct to consumer, we're now able to do through distributor agreement. So you're going to start seeing Wasatch popping up in a lot more places. But we're the only lifetime guaranteed tool out there.
Oh, really?
Yep.
So you pick up, whatever, no problem. You have an issue with it, just send back and free replacement.
Give us a call and we'll send you another one. I mean, we're not real uptight about it.
Nice. Okay, so you have all of that going. And I think, do they have vices? Was that also one of those tools?
That quick sneak peek. There's one coming out. We've got our final patent application to be submitted over the next couple of weeks here. And yes, we've taken a different swing.
There you go.
At a vise that I don't think that anybody's seen anything like it yet.
I'm curious because I've just talked to somebody else at the show, and actually, Tyler, a good buddy of mine, was picking up in the market.
Norvise?
Yeah, well, no, he didn't pick up a Norvise, but I did talk to the Norvise guys there as well. Yeah, just briefly, Tim and the crew. But no, we were chatting with Tyler. He was saying, he needed advice, so he picked up something. I think it was like a rotary. It was a rotary, but I can't remember. I think the price point might have been like $100 or something like that. I'm just curious, what is when you think of price points, because you got under 100, you got 100 to whatever, right? What are you looking at?
Well, higher. Wasatch is a top shelf brand and will continue to be, not just for price point, but for quality. So we're doing things like gold plated brass so that it doesn't tarnish. We gold plate to 6 microns with 24 karat gold on everything we do. We go through a very special process of stabilizing our woods so that they never move and they're stronger than aluminum. So this is going to be a gold and brass vise. The high end, the beautiful, typical Wasatch is going to go for around $750.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of middle market, certainly not as expensive as some. And then we're going to do an anodized aluminum version of that. It's a little bit more entry. And I think that's coming around $225, $250.
Gotcha.
So a little bit more, same form and function, same warranty, just not that beautiful wood and gold. It just gets expensive.
Yeah. Gold. Yeah. You're talking about gold, and gold. The cool thing about gold is it's strong, right? Is that one of the key factors with gold, or is this?
The main thing is that it doesn't tarnish, right?
Oh,
so your brass, and especially if we knurl or we put that kind of diamond pattern on it so that it's easy to grip, that grabs stuff, right? And then you get this green slime off your brass. Well, the gold plating eliminates that.
So, and I want to just take it back just briefly back to the brushes, because I had one more questions before we kind of move forward here. So when you did the brushes, and I don't know the history, were there other brushes? Was that something that was out there at the time, or is this a new idea?
No, the brushes existed. They just didn't quite exist right. They were typically just one material. They appear, I've never been in their factory, but they appear machine made. They come out flat. The materials are stiffer than I want, and they only use the 2 wires, like I was saying, and it just created these problems. I just wasn't totally satisfied. I loved the concept of it, but it just really needed to go that next level. And so, I was watching guys like Jerry French and others doing these beautiful, composite loops, and I'm like, man. Right. I can do that with the brush. I can do that. And so we were the first brush to be able to integrate silicone legs in the brush.
Oh, right.
Because they're handmade. We're able to lay those in by hand.
Oh, yeah. Right, which is huge. Yeah, silicone making it the wiggly wiggler, right? All that stuff.
Yeah, just one more layer of movement. One more, that's what we're looking for.
Right on. That's cool. So, okay. So, and you have a lot going on there. Obviously, you mentioned the pickup of Wasatch and all that. What else you want to give a highlight here? You got the Zoe Angling Group. Give us a little rundown. Whatever you want to chat about. I want to hear an update.
So, we started out. My passion. I hadn't picked up a spinning rod for 25 years. My passion is fly, and yet fly market's a small piece of the market. And while I love fly fishing, my goal is to create 10,000 jobs before I'm done.
All right.
And cool. Specifically 10,000 jobs for exploited individuals or exploitable. And so to do that, we had to broaden it out. And so we started thinking like, man, the stuff that we've got, that these brushes, if the conventional guys found out about it and learned how to use them, what a market we would have. And then we could create more jobs, right?
Yeah.
So we kind of backed it up. Zoe Angling Group is now our corporate name. Zoe is the Greek word for a full life. And that's what we're trying to restore with these individuals that we serve in the production teams. And so we've just kind of we've got all of our fly products. We have the 5 feet brushes and Wasatch Tools and the fly fur. We're going back. We're doing a bullet head style tube fly that's going to have our materials featured on it. So we're gonna start selling tube flies.
Oh wow! Tube fly is complete. Like you just buy a tube fly, it's ready to go.
Complete. It's complete, but you can buy them at different weights, and it's got an over molded head, so that when you come back with the weight is a high density polyethylene plastic that's again recycled. And if you ever nick your rod with it, you're less likely to break your rod versus a pair of dumbbells that hits your rod. And we all know what that looks like.
Yep.
But so, playing around with, ideas that have been around, but maybe just haven't taken that next step, that next evolution, right?
Mm-hmm.
In it, and then try and take those to market. So under Zoe Angling Group, we have Fair Flies, we have Pivot, we have Wasatch Tools. Pivot is our new conventional brand. We're launching things. We're doing a jig with a trailer hook. So, taking what we know from streamers and applying it to jigs,
Oh, right.
for example. And there's some special things in there. Again, we've eliminated lead, and then we overmold our bismuth head with an injectable plastic, recycled plastic. So, again, just that environmental, like,
Right.
Can we get rid of this nasty stuff? What can we do?
Huh.
And then we've got, like I said, Wasatch Tools, and we're signing, we're taking over Stealth hooks as well.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know if you've ever looked at what Stealth is and has done around the hooks.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
I think that it's underappreciated yet. What is there and where we can go from there. We can get those hooks any color you can paint a car. And so playing with that will be our next big push there. And then one last thing is we're getting ready to launch a brand of tackle boxes. That's a foam and carbon fiber composite box that we're calling Hull. And so that should be launching out here pretty quick. I'm pretty excited about that one.
How do you spell that?
HAUL.
Oh, HAE, yeah. Hull. Yeah. And so when you bring these companies on, how does that look with the people that are involved, or do they just become part of, working side by side with you, or how's that look?
No. So, for example, in Stealth's case, the founders had moved on. We're ready to move on, and said, "Hey, Jeff, we love what you do and how you do it. Would you take the company from here and run it?" So,
wow,
we're acquiring the company from them and putting that into our lineup of products that we're working on and looking to innovate in.
Yeah, there you go. So basically, yeah, it's just obviously, yeah, more power behind what you're doing. And so on that question, on that thought, how big, you've got conventional, do you keep going into, say, just the outdoor market, and now we're going to see you producing, tents and boats eventually, or how big do you go?
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't know the answer to that yet.
Because I love boats. I did a whole mini series on boats. I would love to see you with a, your new drift boat or your skiff out there. That would be pretty amazing.
Well, if we ever did, it would be wood.
Oh, it'd be wood.
I think it would have to be. But right now it's just focused. We're really focusing on consumables as much as possible. I know tools aren't really a consumable, but places. If I had a team come online, I've got a woodworking team in Romania that we've been talking to.
Oh, wow.
And, there's another, and we say around the world, but America's got its challenges as well. We're partnering up with a group down in Birmingham, and they create employment for young men coming out of prison.
Oh, wow.
Through teaching them the trades of the crafts. And so, we're going to have them do things like tying boards for our new vise to mount to. We've got some kind of high-tech things that we want to add into those boards. And so we're teaming up with them to manufacture those for us.
That's really cool. Yeah, I just heard a stat there that somebody was saying that it's like 85% of people that get out of prison, end up going back. And part of the struggle is, like you said, it's literally, you've got a prison record. Who's going to hire you? But you're literally giving people like that a job.
That's right. I really believe, that we've got a chance through how we build our companies, how we function, even as consumers. Our dollars are votes. And how can we, through the things that I want or need, how can I still be improving my community or another community by the choice that I make? And I think we've seen that. We've seen that kind of in the coffee industry, really kind of open people's eyes to that. And we saw Tom's Shoes and saying, hey, you buy this product and you're changing somebody's life. But, it's the same thing, by the way. We really focus heavily on those that are survivors of sex trafficking specifically, and some really hard, difficult topics in there. We've been drinking from the fire hydrant since the day we started. But the idea that without a job, especially say in a shame-based culture, right?
Yeah.
You can't survive. So the last number I was given was 92% of women that get rescued and get into a safe home end up back in the red light district.
Wow.
And unless they get a job. And we've been part of seeing 200 women so far brought out of that trade, brought out of those conditions. And we've had only one out of all that time that was lured back. And we'll take that ratio. It's a good trade.
We had in episode 226, Bucky. You probably know Bucky Buchstaber.
Oh yeah, Bucky and I are good friends.
Yeah, one of the greatest names besides Jeff Coffey, which I also love. We're gonna have a little segment at the end of this. Bucky Buchstaber is a great name, but
it really is.
The Fly Fishing Collaborative was episode 226, and he's doing a lot of the sex trafficking stuff. So that was pretty cool.
Right. But I sat on Bucky's board for about 4 years.
Oh,
we started
nice.
At the same time.
Oh wow.
Both of us looking at different models to solve similar challenges through our passion, right?
Amazing.
Like we're in line. He chose not-for-profit model. I chose the for-profit model, and we've worked side by side, kind of synergistically like that over the years.
That's great.
So we do a lot of distribution for the FCCI.
Oh, cool.
The Fly Fishing Collaborative FFC products that we do, and I've helped in some of that movement. So it's been great.
Togens Fly Shop provides superior quality products at a very affordable price. Great resource for tools, fly tying materials, fishing accessories, and more. Togens has you covered with about anything you need getting into it. They've got a great YouTube channel they got going here. We've got some stuff coming up with Togens. We're going to be helping to support them through that channel and some of their tires. So if you get a chance, would love if you could check out Togens. You can go to YouTube right now, and I think that's just Togens. Search it up. You'll find them there. Subscribe to their channel. Maybe leave a comment and see what they have going. If you're interested in fly tying, if you're new to it, or if you've been doing it a while, definitely a good chance to see their little ambassador team, which is pretty amazing. I am definitely head over there right now. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to go check out the site. I wish I could do it as we speak, but I'm going to let you get to the show first, and I hope you enjoy it. So since 2005, Togens has been over-delivering on price and customer service. It's time to check out the buzz for yourself. wetflyswing.com/Togens right now, Togens. You support this podcast by clicking through Togens online. Okay, back to the show. As you talk here, obviously you've got all the products, but you have a huge thing going here. You've got this mission of 10,000 people, and I mean, it sounds pretty daunting, right? And how do you, so at that goal, how long is that going to take you to get, like, where are you at now, and how long, what's it going to take? How can we help you get to that 10,000 goal?
Yeah, and it may not be that all 10,000 necessarily work just with or for us. Like, I get calls from other companies that say, I hear what you're doing and how you're doing it. How do I do it? Would you help me? And I like to say that we're building a model here more than a product, right? We want to, yeah, absolutely. I do some consulting on the side with organizations and say, hey, how can you be more intentional with your supply chain? And what would that cost, and what does that look like? And what's the upsides of that? Like, what if I had to increase my product cost by 10%, but it would make a life difference for everyone that worked for me?
Yeah.
Right? Simple.
Is that roughly, if you just had to say, is it going to cost you 10% more?
Well, so my understanding in a lot of the shops, and this, I'm not going to speak for everybody on this, but a lot of the ones we interview, the average tire was making $2 to $3 a day. We pay $15.
Oh, wow.
Living wage in most of these places is $7.50 a day. That means you can have an apartment with a door that locks, clean water, and your kids can go to school. And it's a pretty basic living, but it's, sustainable.
Right.
So we kind of came at this and said, hey, if we're going to break cycles, we have to pay double a living wage. Can we do it? And so we really focus in on products where we've got enough margin that we're able to do those kinds of things. And, none of us here, man, I love my job. It's like better than working for Disneyland.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
oh, yeah.
I get to play with coming up with a better way to make a fly box or a better way to make a vise and actually do it, and then take it to market and see other people like it and use it and whatnot. Man, I can't imagine anything more fun, right? But
yeah, to
know that we're doing that, we're changing hopefully thousands of lives. So I don't know how to answer the question on when or whatever. I'm always open to the call that says, hey, we really love your model. How do we do that here? I mean, I'll jump on the next plane. You buy my ticket, and I'm there helping.
There you go.
Because that's what it's going to take, right? It's going to take an ecosystem. It's not going to be one person with one idea. It's got to be an idea that's reproducible.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to build here.
Love that. I love that. So basically you're creating something that, will hopefully last for longer, past you, right? Not only the company,
way past me,
way past you, but the whole idea, the whole concept. And as you look at this concept, I mean, when you think of brands or people or mentors, I mean, are there people you look at as doing similar things, maybe not even in the fly fishing space, but doing similar things where you say, oh yeah, they're doing a great thing as well?
Yeah, one of my early exposures was to an organization called the Freedom Business Alliance, and there's about 100 companies out there that are specifically built to create employment for survivors of sex trafficking. And so I just started looking at their models, and it's a struggle. Get in, there's things you never thought of that you have to teach and work with when you get into those environments, and work with people who've been traumatized since they were 5 years old.
Jeez.
And so yeah, there's just rough. There's rough stuff. I mean, stuff I can't even. I don't talk about because I don't want to pass the trauma on. Right.
No, I know.
And,
I know.
So I lost my train of thought in the middle of that.
No,
It's a little intense.
It was.
But
that's what I was thinking, Jeff. I mean, I think the stuff we're talking about here is super deep. I mean, that's the same way with Bucky when Bucky came on. Yeah. I mean, we didn't even go into it all, but like the stuff is crazy. I mean, even like out wherever you are in the U.S., I mean, sex trafficking, it's like literally in your back. It's happening, in Portland right now. Portland there's all sorts of crazy stuff going on. People, like the violence and, I don't know. We're in this world, right, where it's a crazy world, and you're trying to do just a little thing to make some lives better, right? I mean, this is powerful. That's it.
If it's the work that I do and it's transformational, Dave Klausmeyer of Fly Tire Magazine did this wonderful article about us, and I still hold it up, and I read it sometimes and go to tears, and it's our story, but the way that Dave wrote it was, what if I told you that I could not only make a quality fly, but I could use it to transform a life.
Yeah.
And that's really what we're looking at. That's our goal is how many lives can we transform while doing the thing that we're passionate about. Like, man, if I die with $5 in the bank, I don't care.
Yep.
I got to live a full life. I get to go fishing in cool places and meet great guides and tell story and design products that people get to use, and I get to be part of that fly fishing community. And that's really the real honor is to be part of this community, because I think it's one of the neatest communities in the world.
Exactly.
Passionate, caring, engaged, all of that.
Exactly. How do you tell that story with what you have going? You have these products which sound like they're pretty amazing, but you also have this other backstory. Do you find yourself telling the story of the products first, and then it's like, oh, by the way, we're doing this? Or do you come up with like, hey, we're changing the world? Like, how do you do that? How do you talk about that?
That's a great question. I don't know that we've solved the answer on that, except for this. I'll tell you this, that, what we've learned, the average angler gets 2 days a year to go fishing.
Oh, wow.
Right. I mean, we think about that and it brings a tear to our eyes. Like, only 2 days this year. I don't know how I'd survive. But avid anglers, it's a different game.
Yeah.
But if you've really only got 2 days, or you've paid $1,000 to hire a guide for that day or whatever, all you really care about on the front end, and just being honest, is it going to catch me more fish?
Right.
Right.
Yep.
And so we couldn't come out with a product that's just okay, a typical Kenyan or Chinese fly, but we've got a better story. No, that doesn't sustain. That doesn't, like, you're not gonna come back to that.
Yep.
And what we want is people who are loyal, and so we really are pushing. Every product that we put out, it really has to be better than anything else that's out there, by a significant difference, or there's just no point in us doing it. It won't sustain itself. I'm not looking to do any more, Me Too's. I don't buy a bunch of stuff in China, send it to Nepal so I can create jobs of somebody putting a brand on it and then and selling it. If we don't make it, from the ground up, we don't make it.
Yep. That's it.
So, we started out with story forward in our e-com and web presence and that kind of stuff as we started. but quickly learned that really we needed to be product forward.
Yeah.
And the reason that you'll come back first is because it was the best thing you ever used. And hopefully when you learn the story and what we're doing, that we might earn a little of your loyalty for that.
That's it.
Purpose of it. But first, we really care about the product.
Yeah.
We really care that what we put out is top notch.
That's the perfect answer. Yeah. Because people definitely, obviously the product's got to be amazing. Otherwise, people aren't going to stick around, but they're coming for, it's almost like, I think of the podcast. I always bring it back to the podcast, but they come for the topic, like they see a topic, a headline, like, oh yeah, I want to learn about that. But they kind of tend this, like literally state of the host. That's kind of weird to say, but people find a voice they like, a person, something that resonates with them, and they stick around for that. That's the cool thing. They like that person or that thing, and your thing is powerful because you're changing. You're trying to change the world. So why wouldn't somebody, if they had to choose between this or something else, go with the one that changes the world?
Well, yeah, and really though, I really think that the product itself needs to stand on its own. Yeah. Otherwise, there's no point in doing it.
Yeah.
And so we've got some stuff we've been working on. This vise has been 5 years.
Oh, wow.
And I'm not satisfied with it until it does every single thing I want. Totally toolless, perfect axis, total balance, all that kind of stuff.
I always think of like the minimum viable product, right? Get that product out. Maybe it doesn't work with physical products as much, but you get that thing out there just so you don't wait, 10, 20 years to get the product out. You get it out, you launch it, people give you feedback, you make it better. You're not in that line as much?
No, I'm not.
Do you want to perfect this thing?
I used to build software companies. So before I did this, I was in software. So the MVP was the goal every time. Like the first thing that's going to serve at least that first need or whatever. But on the product side of this, it's first impressions.
Right.
When somebody picks that up, if it's not the coolest thing they ever saw, your entire brand isn't the coolest thing they ever picked up.
Right.
Right. And we've got a lot more noise in our industry than we did even 10 years ago. Right. There's a lot of people that have jumped in and they're trying to take a swing at it. Yeah. And, you go to sponsor something, you end up in the logo soup. It didn't used to be like that. There was 3 or 4 people that would sponsor but it's grown and it's really cool. It's really exciting to see the innovation and the ideas and the things that people are trying to do and are doing. And it's just an honor to get to be alongside of that.
That's amazing. Yeah, cool. So I had a couple things, and we'll start to take it out of here. One thing, I'm just thinking about what we've been talking about today. I mean, fair trade is a word that's been thrown out there. We even mentioned it here, right? Yeah. I mean, describe that really quick. What is, like, somebody that doesn't even fair trade, what does that even mean? What, to you?
Well, it's fair trade is kind of one of those interesting things. It's like saying biodegradable.
Right.
What does that really mean?
Yeah.
You start diving into it, you're like,
or organic, right?
Or organic, like, well, everything we eat is organic. What do you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. But the concepts behind them are noble and need to be continued to be fleshed out. So fair trade, typically it started out, really the coffee industry was the big push, right? When the second largest consumer product next to oil, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
It's big. Here's an interesting thing, and this is just in my research on it, and I always encourage people, hey, go read on this stuff and look into it for yourself so that you really understand what it means when we put a symbol on something. But, fair trade went as far as saying it's about the landowner, right? Where do you start and where do you stop in a complex thing? So landowners were getting fair pay for a product that was coming off that land. Right. But what it didn't address was how much the employees that harvested that product were getting paid.
Oh. Yep.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Since then, World Fair Trade, I know, has taken a lot of steps forward. It was a very deep process for our partners in Kathmandu to go through, and it wasn't cheap. But it's this idea of we are who we say we are, and we're willing to have that third party validation that says who we serve, how we do it, how we treat them. And so fair trade is really about those good employment practices, how we treat people.
Oh, right. Exactly. That's the amazing thing. And I was just going to ask you, I've never asked anybody this before, Jeff, but, if you had to create the title, the headline for this episode, in a couple words, right? This is always the challenge because the podcast, we've been all over the place. We've covered everything.
Sure.
What would you say if you had to give us 2 words for this today? Is that even doable?
2 words.
Yeah.
I would say, well, I'm gonna put the 2 words in a sentence and let you boil down what you want. I think, the science of innovation and transformation.
The science of innovation. And you know what I was thinking of? I was thinking of fair trade, literally fair trade, and then add on fair trade with Jeff Coffey, add on whatever else, you know what I mean? But essentially it's all that, right? It's fair trade is, you just said it yourself. It's working with people, giving them a better, well, essentially, I'm not sure how you phrase that, but right, kind of not just the landowners, but the people.
That's right. Listen, our entire community, our world is based on people working with people, not machines, not computers. And we boil it down, but really how I treat people, like that's my life. That's my legacy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And that goes down to where I buy what I buy. And, we do way more shopping at like farmers markets. I want to know who grew that. Because I like doing business person to person, not person to entity.
That's so cool. So we got one quick segment. This is a good one today because the segment is called Coffee Talk. and the segment is, obviously like, okay, what are you drinking this morning? So let's just start there. So this is Coffee Talk with Jeff Coffey. But what's your beverage in the morning?
My beverage in my hand right now is a little bit of Pete's coffee. Let's see, which one is it?
There you go.
It is the Domingo medium roast. And I'm a stovetop espresso guy, and then I just make it into Americanos. So I do the stovetop espresso.
Oh yeah.
2 shots in a cup, and then I add the hot water to it just to heat it.
Yeah.
And
that's it.
We're in a shop. We really don't have a coffee maker in our
it's good.
R&D shop.
No, and I think the coffee makers I used to be a coffee maker person, but that's long gone. I like the pour over, I think it's just getting, it's fresher.
I love that, but the time.
Yeah.
I love it, but the time.
Yeah. So for this Coffee Talk segment, the question is from the listeners is, and this is kind of a loaded question, but what is the best vice to use is a question that comes up a lot out there. People that are especially getting started, they're like, oh my God, do I need a rotary vice? Like, so what do you say to that? I mean, obviously you're creating a vice, but.
My first answer would have been whiskey. I think that's definitely the best of the vices.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's right. There you go. There you go. So that's the other one.
It depends on what you tie and how you tie is what it really boils down to.
Yeah. What if we're tying brushes?
Yeah. I mean, if you're tying for brushes, you need a full rotary. Like that is the best way, for me, that's the only way I'll tie, even if I'm working on some atoms or whatever. I mean, once Norm Norlander taught me how to use the Norvise, I just wanted to improve on it. But I love tying that way. So, if you're tying a bunch of little tiny flies, it's so tough. I know just about everybody that makes a vice in the industry. So
that's right.
I love them all. And I have them all, like Steve Abel. Yeah, I got to tell you. So I was working. I was working in the fly shop in Bend, Oregon. It was like the oldest fly shop in this little hut at the south end of town. It's called the Deschutes River Outfitters. And that year, Steve Abel, back when he owned Abel, had come out with a vise, and this vise was all copper and beautiful brass and just as gorgeous. But it was like $800, right? Like there wasn't anything that expensive in 2000. And the shop had gotten a couple to sell. We'd become an Abel shop, and I sat down. I started tying on it, and while I'm sitting there tying, I'm showing everybody how to use this thing and the cool features of it. And I apparently had sold more vices than anybody else in the country for Abel that year. So Steve came up and he loaded me up, but he walked out to his car and he walked back in. He says, I have something for you. And he handed me one of those Abel vices that I still have. It's still on my desk. I still tie with it. There's something about a vice that yeah. Jay Nicholas. I don't know if you've ever interviewed Jay Nicholas.
Yeah, Jay was on way
right?
back. Yep.
Jay's a longtime friend. Jay and I sat up till 2:00 one morning in his cabin down in Pacific City, talking about all the features. What's the 6 key features that a vice has to have? And really, it came back down to, well, I don't know. Am I tying little trout flies or am I tying big saltwater flies? And, am I focused on streamers? For me, because I'm a streamer guy, it's got to have rotary function to it at a minimum, and then I really want it in balance. I don't want it flopping around as I spin it. that might be a little indication of what's coming out in my vise.
There you go. Perfect. A little sneak peek. And we did have Jay Nicholas on way back at episode number 3, literally at the start. Jay was on it, and that was one where I was actually in person at his cabin, which was one of the few. I did.
Many of us have stayed at that cabin.
You'll love this. Exactly. Yeah, you'll love this, Jeff. So that was number 3, episode 7. Well, I think we had Jim Tini on early as well, but recently, I'm just giving a heads up because was just out. Frank Moore, who I know you're probably aware of, he passed away, this last year, and we're re-releasing that episode I did with Frank and Jeannie for episode 300, just to celebrate, the person he was, and so that's a pretty, obviously a sad thing to happen, but I think the impact you're talking today. We didn't talk a lot about conservation. Well, we kind of talked about conservation. We actually on some of the chemicals, but Frank was a big, conservation. He got the North Umpqua essentially protected, or parts of it. So, there's all sorts of places to dig into this stuff, right? I mean, this is amazing. So, this is one, Jeff, that we could probably keep talking here for quite a while. I'm going to respect your time and let you get out of here. Give me a little, and just on that conservation note there, this is kind of the conservation minute section.
Sure.
What, other than, say, steelhead, which we've covered, and some areas down in kind of the southeast and Key West, what else would you highlight as a conservation either topic, or have we talked about it today? If you say something really important to you.
Well, for me, it comes back to our manufacturing processes, right?
Yeah.
Like that's where we've chosen to focus on that, and not just go to another country and destroy their waters so that ours stays pristine. Yep. And, I think that's a challenge we should all be addressing, is making sure that, our environmental impact. I'll give you another, for example, in each of our factories, we have a zero waste policy. So if I ship over a bunch of materials, for example, and let's say that you cut all the fly fur and you're left with a strip of backing, right?
Yeah.
Well, that backing goes down the street. It gets shredded and used to stuff mattresses in Nepal and India.
Huh.
So everything that we do, if we send something over in a bag, that bag is used to repackage it and sending it back. So we're not leaving garbage where we go. It's just evaluating each step of each of your practices that it comes down to. And I think that's a place that we have the most impact. A guy going out for a day with a lure that might bleed a little bit into the water, that's not the big problem.
That's it. Well, and if somebody wanted to connect, we got a couple things. If somebody wanted to connect with you more on kind of the business side to learn about this and connect, they could do that. Let's do that. So where would be if somebody wanted to connect you either for this to learn more about this fair trade and the good stuff you're doing here, and then also how could we find out what you guys have coming and connect with the new products you have coming this year?
Yeah, that'd be great. So zag.fish, that's ZAG.fish, is our new corporate site, and each of the brands and products that we're working on, we tell about there. And if you're interested in trying some of these products out, go to anglerstradingpost.com.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a great place to buy them. But, Orvis, go to your local Orvis, go to Fish USA, go, to your local fly shop. If they're not carrying our stuff yet, shame them. Tell them why in the world aren't you carrying this yet?
There you go.
Don't shame them.
Don't shame
them. But, anyway, so I appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And just give us one heads up, because you've talked about a lot of stuff. Have we anything else in the next year you want to give a sneak peek or a heads up on, or have we covered it all today?
Yeah, well, these tackle boxes that we're coming out with, the fly guys are gonna really like. It should be out. I don't know if we're gonna make it by IFTD with our first shipment back, but we'll probably have some samples there for people to look and touch. We're doing our best to have that back. Supply chains have been tricky lately, but imagine a composite carbon fiber over foam, so a 300-pound guy could stand on a box, and then you could pick it up and toss it, and it'll float in the water.
And it's super light.
And it's just super light. But what's the other key thing is it's systematized. So if I've got a bunch of dry flies, I can use. It's got magnets on these inserts. You drop in an insert, and there's your that insert can be loaded with your flies for the fall river that day.
So you switch it up. So you gotta.
So you can just drop in.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the idea of buying one box, but it's totally based on what I'm doing. Another one, insert's got little nymph cups with magnets in the bottom. So you literally just drop your nymphs down in there, close the box, and you're on your way. And, we've got one that's got a flask and a cigar tube in the insert. So just kind of playing
there you
with,
go.
that box that's in my pocket. What else does it need?
That's it. And back to the whiskey. You mentioned the whiskey with the vice. So we got what is your whiskey again? What's your whiskey of choice?
Ooh, whiskey of choice. I've always said if I got dropped on an island and could only take one beverage with me, it would probably be Redbreast Cask Strength, an Irish whiskey.
Oh, there you go.
If you haven't tried it, go try it.
All right, good. We'll try to connect to that. Maybe find a link, and we'll put links to everything we talked about today in the show notes, and everything else. So this has been great, Jeff. We'll send, like you said, zag.fish. We'll send everybody out there, and man, this has been fun. We've been a number of years coming to put this together, so I appreciate you spending some time today and sharing all the good stuff you have going. And looking forward to keeping in touch with everything.
Likewise. Thanks, Dave. Just so proud of everything you've done with the show, the integrity of it. You're doing a great job. Keep it up. You're doing a real service for our industry.
So there you go. Every link, every show note, and everything else we talked about today will be over at wetflyswing.com/306. And you can even get a transcript of this show. Every word we're speaking is there. You'll want to subscribe if you can. Right now, if you're not already subscribed, go to your app of choice down there, click that subscribe button. If it's on Apple Podcasts, there's a little plus button. Click that. Next week, if you're subscribed, you are going to get this episode delivered to your inbox. We're going back. Oh, no, we're not going back. We're going back with Lamps and Nick's here, but we talk about a Golden Dorado trip. A really amazing trip, and this thing is more than just fishing. And we got a giveaway that goes right along with that. So if you stay tuned, next week you're going to find out about a really cool giveaway, a chance to jump in and have a shot at heading down south. Just want to thank you, as always, for being a subscriber, sharing this episode, or leaving a review. Or if you have any comments you want to check with me, if you have a story, a guest, or a topic you want me to dig into, I'd love to hear from you. Dave at Wetfly Swing. You can send me an email anytime, and check in with me on social, Wetfly Swing. Give me a lightning bolt, a microphone emoji. That's always, I love seeing that. So hope you have a good day, and hope you check out the next show, and see you maybe on the water.
Thanks for listening to the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show. For notes and links from this episode, visit wetflyswing.com.